Welcome to the Expert Network Team podcast,
where our goal is to inform and educate our listeners on matters related to finance, legal, insurance, accounting, and other interests that are of personal and business nature.
We hope you will find our content useful as well as entertaining. The Expert Network Team consists of Carl Frank of A&I Financial, Mike Miller of Miller and Associates CPAs, Jeff Cromendike of Security First Insurance Agency, and I'm Nathan Merrill. I'm an attorney at Goodspeed and Merrill.
Together, our independent team combines our expertise to provide you insights and solutions, some straightforward, some profound, for real-life opportunities we see on a daily basis. We hope you enjoy the information contained in today's podcast and find it useful. If you'd like to learn more or desire to meet with any of the Expert Network team members in person, you can contact us at info@expertnetworkteam.com. That's info@expertnetworkteam.com.
And we encourage you to take advantage of a free consultation with any of our team members. Just mention this podcast when you schedule your appointment.
Now on to today's podcast.
Carl Frank with A&I Financial Services, and with me today I've got Nathan Merrill with Goodspeed and Merrill. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing really good. I'm not going to, well, I'll say it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend. And also with us is Jeff Cromendike with Security First Insurance Agency. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Carl. Thanks for having me. Nate, were you worried about jinxing the new year? Is that why you weren't?
Well, kind of am now since we already had a false start. I didn't.
All right.
We're kind of replicating our original intro conversation here. Now it's finally going off the butterfly effect, and we're going down some alternate reality. So
I thought maybe it's just because we've had 3 false starts to the new year, 2020, 2021, and now 2022. I'm hoping this is the year, though. This is going to be a good year. I think
this is going to be different.
I think it's going to be great.
Not Groundhog Day again. Right. Groundhog Year.
Well, we've got a lot of challenges to start the year, don't we? I mean, COVID is everywhere, and I think people are rethinking what in the world they're doing. Don't you feel like people are wondering? And I know we were talking before this conversation began and here on the podcast live, but you know, in our office, we're having conversations like, well, why are we working so hard? What can we do to make this easier? And Nate, I think you had a similar conversation in your office, too, with one of your partners.
Yeah, and I'll actually kick off by referring to something I think I've mentioned on previous podcasts, but this is something that's always in the back of my head when we talk about these types of adversity-laden times, is the Napoleon Hill quote that in every adversity is the seed of an equal or greater opportunity.
Wow.
So that's why I do look at 2022 as an opportunity to be different. Notwithstanding the fact that 2021 was seemingly a repetition or a repeat of 2020, I think for those who saw the opportunities, we made it a pretty productive, a pretty gangbusters year. I think each of our businesses...
We know a lot of people who financially did well last year, and we also know a lot of people who are burnt out.
Right. And it's the burnt out that I think we're going to try to address today. So, and that was very real in our office. We worked hard to keep up, and now it's trying to figure out how can we keep up without working so hard.
Exactly. So we imagine this is probably going to be a 2-part podcast. We're going to call it something like Reimagining Retirement, because we've got to have something that we're going towards. Jeff, you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to, get on board with what you guys are saying on the intro here. I'm tired. I know we're all tired, and it's not due to the normal rhythms of business. We've all, I think, as business owners, have had to, really step into, some things that have been very, very difficult in navigating this COVID world and making tough leadership decisions. And burnout is, I think, Carl, a good word. I mean, there's at the very least an incredible amount of executive fatigue going on out there, and so therefore, we're kind of sitting here on first week of January thinking about, well, what can we do to make it different? And I don't know that I would go as far as calling it retirement yet at this point in time, but it's good to, be thinking about a change in our work lifestyles, right? That might feel a little bit more
sustainable,
like retirement.
Right?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited about this. I think we can specifically talk, to our business owner clients, which we have many of them out there, and just get them thinking a little bit differently, maybe about what retirement is. I think about how many business owners might be sitting here listening to this today, thinking, "I got to sell my business. I can't go through another year like this."
I have heard that from more people than ever before, saying, "Oh my gosh, it's not worth it." So what kind of advice do you give somebody who says to you, for instance, "Man, I'm burnt out. I can't continue to do what I've done. I love this business. I built it over all these decades. This is what I do. It's part of my personality, part of my identity." And they're telling you, "I can't do it anymore." And you might have this sinking suspicion that they're making a mistake.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when you say that is what makes it worth it. That's the first. I think that's my first knee-jerk response.
On what do you love about it?
Yeah, what do you love about it? Why did you do it in the first place? The three of us have gone through a curriculum where we recognize that if you're doing it just for the money, you're going to find a point at which it's not worth it, right? There's a certain diminishing returns on monetary remuneration. If you have a passion for what you're doing, if you have a big why behind what has driven you to be the business owner that you are, then it may be just rediscovering that and getting out of the boxes that you don't belong in and into the boxes you do.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, every business is driven up of or made up of different elements, and just simply put, they can fall. I think what we're all familiar with is the market, the processes, or the product, right? If I'm remembering those three things, if you're a processes person, you shouldn't be trying to figure out how to get marketing done. You should find someone whose passion is marketing, and you can focus on the processes. So you got to find out what it is about your business that really drives you, and then get other people into those other boxes that are your drainers. Other people have referred to them as battery drainers, battery chargers. I don't care what label you put on them. Whatever gets you excited, you should be focusing on those things. And if COVID has put you in boxes where you don't belong, or if this, the economic strain has put you in boxes you don't belong, find ways to get yourself out of those boxes. You're nodding your head, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have summarized that any better. I'll tell you what, I think the big why is a really key component here. Knowing why we do what we do, I think can be a real source of either being burned out or not. So if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, if you don't feel like your business solves a big problem in the industry today, and feel like you're really creating significance in some way as opposed to just success, I think that's one of the things you probably want to look towards. And then we're all very capable people. I think we can do anything for a short moment of time. Even things that we're not specifically gifted in. But to Nate's point, know who you are, know what your gift sets are, and those things are inherently designed to charge your battery, not deplete your battery. It's the things that we do that don't come natural, don't come easy, that are they're battery depleters, drainers, and that's oftentimes. And I think really, if we're just to be honest with ourselves, we've had to do a lot of things in the last 24 months as business owners that, quite frankly, just aren't in our wheelhouse. I mean, it's just been a very difficult year. So I think those are two great areas to start with. First of all, figure out your big why. Second of all, determine what it is that you're doing that you're good at, and what you're doing that you're not good at, and get rid of that. Make sure that you process map your desk per se, and get out of the boxes that maybe somebody else can do much better, much easier, and maybe even for less money. So know what your value is per hour, and shed the stuff that's less than what your business is being paid you.
I think a lot of burnt out. I mean, there's two ways you can get burnt out, or probably more than two ways. But there's what we're just talking about now is doing everything, and then there's the just I don't know. we call it the treadmill, right? Just doing a lot of what you may be great at it. It might be the right thing for you, but you found yourself kind of on a constant treadmill, so to speak.
Like you just keep working and working and working, and the more you work, the more work.
Right, like I said, last year felt like we were working to keep up. Like there was just so much volume, so much work flowing in the door that you just had to
barely keeping your head above water because
Yeah.
you're just paddling and paddling and paddling and working so hard. And sometimes it feels like when you're working so hard, you're just making more work, and then you're like, oh my gosh, do I really want more work? And at some point in time, you're just going to burn out in that. So what can you do there? What if you're in that position? I mean, there are going to be a number of people. Wall Street had another amazing year. The economy in a lot of ways is actually doing really well in spite of all of this stress and pandemic noise and all the other things that are going on in our world. A lot of companies are doing well. A lot of people at work are feeling that stress. What can they do to change their situation so they don't feel the burnout?
Well, I'm going to juxtapose that with something that Jeff pointed out as we start too. So there's the people who are engaged. There's the people who are working. There's our faithful employees who show up every day, and then there's been this what did you call it? Great resignation.
Yeah.
There's a significant part of the population, whether it be the boomers who have just decided to finally call it quits or whatever, or just a large segment of the dual income portion of our workforce. I mean, it's hard to really say who it is who hasn't come back yet, but we have a lot of people who have, whether temporarily or permanently, disengaged from the workforce, which is leaving a very significant productivity burden on those that are engaged. And this isn't a blame thing. It's
that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly right. And so now we've got people and they're resigning. Well, what are they thinking, Jeff? Why are they doing this?
Yeah, I don't know. I almost feel like it's got to be temporary. They're younger than I think all of us for sure, and I think they're fed up and checked out, and maybe even have experienced a little bit of working from home, little freedom there, and now their companies are requiring them to come back, and they're like, no, I'm not going to do that, so on and so forth. So again, that's maybe a little bit of a different conversation than where we were headed with regards to retirement, because I just don't know that that's a reality for a lot of these people.
That is a great point. So these people are maybe fooling themselves, at least some of them.
I think so. They've got a nest egg, and a lot of them are probably living a little bit leaner than they had prior to the pandemic, and they're okay with that.
In a van down by the river.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely. But, just going back to, I think, speaking specifically to our business owners, the three of us here in the room today, I think can look back not that long ago and remember these days where, we were everything. Like we were in charge of everything. We had our hands in everything. And it really did feel like this treadmill, Nate, that you're kind of referring to, this thing I just can't get off. if I do, I'm gonna trip and crash and burn, and yet I need to stay on it to keep it going. So, Carl, you'd asked, hey, how do you move off that? How do you, and I think the first thing that came to my mind is just this idea of delegation, right? Of really determining once again what it is that I'm great at. What is it that serves the business best when I'm doing it, and really be disciplined to staying there, and then delegating those other things. And it's going to require that you hire. You take a risk, and you might have to hire a position or two positions, but the return on investment when you're actually doing what you've been created to do is exponential. I mean, I don't know what the multiplier on that is, but I know when I'm doing things that I'm not good at, I don't get as much done. And then the stuff that I do move into, I've got very little energy for.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to your delegation with another D is destination, is because you can delegate things away, but unless you have a clear, it's kind of the Covey concept of beginning with the end in mind. Knowing where you want to get to is helpful, and if if all we have as a concept of a business is someone who shows up at 7 and leaves at 7, then you're not going to feel like you're getting off your treadmill. You got to have an idea of a business lifestyle that's different than a job.
Yeah.
Is that a fair kind of so you're delegating with the destination in mind, that you're actually, like I said before, taking yourself out of boxes and not adding new boxes into your, back onto your plate. That's
your destination is an ideal lifestyle, which includes work. I think if we're reimagining retirement. Let me just ask you guys a question. What if you were to build a business that you didn't want to walk away from? Think about that.
You asking our listeners or
I'm
me and
asking
Carl?
you guys.
Because that is what I am. I mean, all about, and almost to the chagrin or jest of a lot of my employees. They know that I never intend to leave because I never want to. We've talked about retirement in the past being to be taken out of service. This is kind of the definition of when you retire a machine, you don't use it anymore. I don't want to ever become useless.
Right.
I want to be used differently, maybe a little less, but I agree with that concept 100% is, and it has a lot to do with my legacy mindset too. I want to build something that can continue beyond my dependency on me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's inspiring.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great question for you business owners out there who might be feeling some of this fatigue. Is what would it look like to create a business that I really don't want to sell? Primarily because it allows me to wake up every morning deciding what I want to do, whether I want to go in and work today or whether I want to go and ski or hit the golf course or whatever it is. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about enterprise and business in particular, is that it actually can and will continue to grow even if you're not in it.
Some of the greatest American stories are multi-generational family-run businesses. Some of them are still around. I couldn't necessarily come up with many off the top of my head because some of them
easier said than. I mean, Johnson & Johnson was a family business,
Right.
and now it's like the 10th or 11th or anyway top 20 companies in the world from size standpoint.
But depending on your locale, there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity for multi-generational businesses. Carl, yours is kind of a multi-generational
We are a
business.
multi-generation firm. We're the second generation. I have no idea if any of these kids are going to take over the third generation. We'll see.
But you're whether it's your kids or your
just
kids,
the generation that follows
your
us.
work family, so to speak.
Yes, right. And we have a partner who's younger than we are in case something were to happen to us, and the firm will go on. Absolutely.
It's one of the things I love about doing road trips, getting out of the cities and into the outlying communities where there have been, generation upon generation, basically that runs and feeds that community. I think of the family business that built our ranch property. They've been around for 40, 50 years. I believe they're a third generation. That's why it's called Tri, I think, but the third H, but Tri H or Tri-Hearst is the name of their outfit. But sometimes when we get in this metro lifestyle and we live in these kind of multi-national kind of corporate environment, we forget how much of
it's easy to
how
lose
much
your
of the
place
economy
in
is driven by the main street. And there's real opportunity to create meaningful.
Especially here in Colorado, where we're all sitting, the vast majority, the number of businesses are by far smaller business owners, and a huge number of our population works for smaller business owners. And I think a lot of these people who are thinking about this great resignation, like you were talking about, they're probably dreaming of owning their own business, right? I mean, they're probably thinking about, I don't want to work for the man, right? I want to do something else. So one of the things...
But taking us back to the point, we all don't want to be stuck on the treadmill until we're 70, right?
Oh, my goodness. So how do we get off? And one of the things that I was hoping we would jump into, and Jeff, you've got it sitting right in front of you, and tell us what this is. And I think all three of us, we need to give our tip our hats to a dude named Chuck Blakeman, who really put into words and pictures and diagrams some of the thoughts that have helped us build our businesses. So thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, I've got a lot to thank Chuck for sure in the building of our business. And maybe we go into a little bit more detail on this during our next podcast. But it's important to understand what stage your business is in, right? So you can kind of take a little bit of a sounding as to where you're at and where you need to go. And I would just plug Chuck's book here, I guess, at this point in time. Making Money is Killing Your Business. That's an interesting idea,
title,
isn't it? Yeah, making money is killing your business. But the whole concept being that you're so focused on making money, it'll end up killing you or killing your business in the long run. If
it goes
you
back
don't,
to that stuff you and I were talking about
right?
being ineffective at doing too many things. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to really consider your business as having a lifespan and doing your best to bring it to maturity as soon as possible. And when you do that, you're then the beneficiary of the lifestyle that brings. But there's inevitably a stage, a period between stage 4, which is this treadmill stage. This is the time where the business owner is kind of doing everything.
You're not sucking wind anymore.
No,
you're paying your bills.
Yeah,
you're paying
your
yourself.
bills, right. You've got a viable operation. Many of you might feel like this. It's an ongoing concern. It's a proven business. It's got legs. I can take it from here.
But it needs you to show up every day at 6 o'clock and stay until the lights go out.
On you, yes, absolutely. And so, to make this jump, this mindset shift from stage 4, in essence, to stage 5, where you get less focused on the craft or building the chair, for example, and then more focused on the process. Which is going to require other people getting involved and you letting go of more aspects of the operation. Only then can you begin to really start to delegate and scale. There's only so many chairs I can make every day, right? But if I create a process around it, incorporate some technology, incorporate some machinery, incorporate other hands, I can now scale this thing.
This gets to what I was meaning when I said destination.
Yep.
Kind of the art of the possible is moving beyond that mindset of like, I have a business that makes money to I have a business that can provide these other intangible benefits.
Yep. Exactly.
Tangible and intangible.
Right. So once you have a business that's actually being operated on a process, then you can start thinking about leadership. Building into people, developing the next leader. That inevitably then in that stage 6, you're going to, as the owner of the business, start realizing some freedom, start realizing some flexibility, start moving into the specific things that make the most money in the least amount of time for your business, because you're now operating on all of your cylinders, doing the things that you were designed to do, because you've got a leadership team that's been built around you that's working this process that you designed. And then stage 7 is kind of the, I guess, I don't even want to say sunset, but I think there's a lot of these businesses out there where the founder is a myth. He's a legend, he or her, and a picture on the wall. And maybe they show up for the annual Christmas party, or potentially maybe a board meeting once a quarter. This is a very, very mature business where they're just overseeing and continuing to develop their executive leadership team, encouraging them, maybe resourcing capital for business, but certainly at that point in time, that business owner has created a business that is serving them.
Well, and their leadership team. I mean, I think one of the things that can't be lost in this is what we've talked about in various capacities of lack of scarcity mentality. It's not a business built to your sole and exclusive benefit to the exclusion of everybody else. You're creating an opportunity, a pie that can be shared with all the people who help make it run. So even though you're stepping into a more passive leadership or iconic role, it doesn't mean that there's less for you or that you can't share that success with the people who help make it happen, because what you're doing is creating a larger and larger opportunity base.
Yeah, building abundance. This is great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to learn more. This might be a good time to segue to our next podcast. Leave you on the cliff, because next time we'll ask a bunch of difficult questions. Okay, so that sounds great, but guys, how do I do that? And then what am I retiring into, or what am I if I'm stage 7 and I'm still the figurehead, or I'm still part of this company? What does that really mean? What does that look like for me? What can I do to make it meaningful for myself? Sound like a plan?
All good questions.
All right.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
so much, Jeff Cromendike, Nathan Merrill, and I'm Carl Frank. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the information we shared.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to share it with someone else. And join us next time.
If you want to meet with a member of the team, please contact us at info@expertnetworkteam.com. That's info@expertnetworkteam.com.
If you have special topics you'd like to hear about, please reach out to us and let us know at the same email address. Again, that's info@expertnetworkteam.com. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you for listening to this podcast. We want to remind you that listening to this podcast does not establish a client-professional relationship with any of the firms represented, nor does it constitute legal, investment, or accounting advice, and the views are those of the professionals only.
Investment advisory services may be provided through ANI Financial Services, and securities may be provided through Genios Wealth Management.